Welcome to From the Mezzanine, a motion picture podcast. We are two guys from the Midwest who have a passion for all things film and TV. We are not professional reviewers. We do not trade opinions for special access from movie studios. We are not here to sell you meal kits, and our reviews are not influenced by any larger organization or publication. Each week, we put our time and money on the line to tell you what is the best and the worst in theaters, on streaming services, and on video on demand.
This presentation contains copyrighted materials that have been used under the fair use provisions of U.S. copyright law. Further use, duplication, or distribution is prohibited. And welcome everybody to From the Mezzanine. I'm Chuck.
And I'm Matt.
Good to see you again, man. And, we have a very special episode once again this evening. We're going to be giving our very special rankings and our, savage takedowns of these streaming giants. But before that, we'll, obviously dig into some news and, talk about what we've seen this week. I did get to see a movie in a theater, and I had a very, very neat find on VOD that I had been looking for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, but right off the bat, we'll actually start with, the answering the parting question that we left with last week, which is what property do you wish wouldn't be adapted ever? Or like what property that has been adapted do you wish would be left alone? And I feel like this is a very relevant question given that Netflix just canceled Cowboy Bebop 3 weeks out from release. Because I'll just digress a little bit on that because there's a trend on my Netflix, they give you the trending, what is the thing that people are actually watching, and it wasn't the live action Bebop for the last 3 weeks. What was in the trending was the original anime, which, I guess says everything that I feel like needs to be said on that. They shouldn't have wasted their time and money on making that show if they weren't going to see it through, if they weren't going to actually support it. And I guess that's the reason, that's what made me bring this question up, because if a streaming platform isn't going to be committed to, trying to give an audience something like worth their time, and like a lot of time they don't do that, and they bullheadedly just keep churning out season after season after season of shit that we don't care about anyway. But like we have another Sex and the City, thing happening. But Cowboy Bebop is beloved. Why the Last Man was beloved. They both are, content that didn't really get much beyond just what 13 episodes could give us. Mm-hmm. And if that's the trend, if we're just going to get a truncated adaptation, I'd rather have no adaptation of all of certain things. And mine is Transmetropolitan by Warren Ellis and Derek Robertson. That is one of my most favorite, graphic novel comic series. And if for those that don't know, it's basically a Hunter S. Thompson gonzo journalist in a cyberpunk future and his war against the corrupt governments and corporations of the city that has consumed the entire East Coast in a giant sprawl. And, it's a very political book, obviously. It has, a lot that might be relevant to today, but the politics of today would pollute the message that it has, which is uniquely, Warren Ellis's vision. And I think I'm safe in hoping that they never do it because, he was Me Too'd like a year or so ago. And I just very much doubt that, anybody within the apparatus of, the taste making and the choice making of these things would support the adaptation of anything Warren Ellis has done. So leave Transmetropolitan alone, please. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, and so I was thinking about this for a little bit, and the best I could come up with was pretty much anything by the author Dan Simmons. Are you familiar with him?
Yes.
At all?
Yeah, I am. And I've never... You're talking about like Hyperion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Hyperion Cantos.
Yeah. So yeah, those are I have like two main ones. It's the Hyperion Cantos, which they actually are doing.
I know, apparently. They've been threatening for some time. They should just leave it the fuck alone. It's such a I've never read it, but it's something that I eventually will get around to because it's so intriguing, just the premise of it.
It's good. It's basically for anybody that doesn't know, it's Canterbury Tales in like a sci-fi future, basically.
That's right. Yeah. And there's a weird planet that where there's time prisons and this weird creature that just impales people onto spikes for no reason.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, from what the last I heard, actually about a month ago, WB was going to do a movie with Bradley Cooper in it.
But that's in line with Bradley Cooper, his aspirations. That's the kind of actor he is. Yeah.
The only way they could do this is if they gave it the Dune treatment, basically, and that would they would need a very specific lineup of things to happen for that to work. But so that was number one, and then number two is his book Summer of Night, and this is his lesser known book, and this is kind of like a book about 5 middle school age kids who discover that there's something like sinister going on below their middle school, like in the basements of their middle school.
Weird.
And yeah, it's really weird. It's basically it's very similar to It, Stephen King's It, but I think it's better, honestly, and it gets a lot wilder. Like, you find out a bunch of residents of the town they live in are in on this all the shady business going on, and it's really good, but I could totally see some shitty network picking it up and trying to turn it into the new Stranger Things.
Yeah. But if someone should make that, it should be Shane Carruth, because it just kind of reminds me of that unrealized project of his called A Topiary.
Oh yeah.
Which is still one of the most dizzying, bizarre scripts I've ever read. But yeah, some things should just be left the hell alone. Just let it be what it is. And I guess another one I'll throw out there is the book House of Leaves.
Oh yeah.
Good luck adapting it, first of all, but goddamn, there's someone who's probably going to try. And they just should not. Yes, but moving on now to news. We had a little bit of an announcement, for all of you fans of The Boys, over on Amazon Prime. We're getting some kind of animated spin-off. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's called, or the working title is Diabolical, and that's really all we know about it right now. But this is in addition to another spin-off that's going to be live action, that is going to be set at a college for superheroes that's being described as a raunchy teen sex comedy.
No, there's I guess I haven't seen the latest season of The Boys, but there's literally a whole storyline about the D-list heroes that Huey gets they insert him into that. I don't know. It just rings of that, where I don't know. I just wish that because I guess that's really the question. I never thought that The Boys as a franchise would have that much broad appeal and have that much of an entry point into the culture to where we're just getting the sex lives of superhero college students, which is basically just unnecessary to me at this point. I'd rather see Herogasm done as it is written, but we know that they're not going to do that.
Yeah, when I thought about this, I don't think the world of the comic is pretty interesting, but I don't think the sort of slightly sanitized Amazon version of this world is as interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't think that this world, which is basically just our world, but superheroes, but what if evil? That's all it is. And so I don't think the world's interesting enough to justify all these shows because they're not even really doing the comic justice. Everything's very you know, a lot of people like to say that the Boys TV show is like really edgy, but it's not compared to the comic. They cut a lot of the sex stuff. They cut a lot of like the racist stuff and stuff like that. And it's, you know, the Amazon show hints at that, but you can tell that somebody's sitting in like the wings saying like, hey, you know, tone that stuff down a little bit, you know, like.
Yeah, there's some tongue clicking like prude, you know, who's just concerned about being able to get middle America to watch it. And yeah, I felt the same way about the Preacher show that they did, you know, on AMC. It just, it's light. It's the LITE version of, you know, Garth Ennis's absolutely acerbic and scathing view of the world and end of the genre that, you know, he's, you know, taking down with the boys in particular. No, everything that happens in that comic is utterly reprehensible and could not be described at, you know, like a family dinner table. And if you take it to the point to where you can recommend it to your parents, this is not the same show. This isn't the same story or even world. So, yeah, I have my doubts that it'll even succeed. They might be, you know, doing too much with it. Or maybe they're exactly right. Their metrics have told them this is what the people fucking want, you know. So they're gonna give it to, like, because the Invincible adaptation they did, for example, I felt hewed very closely to the sensibilities of that. Very different, I know, but it still had, you know, the extremities that the comic had that I was surprised to actually see in the final product. But they're definitely pulling their punches on the boys, and that's disappointing because they don't have Ripper like raping people, you know, whatever Butcher tells him to. Shit like that. They took Ripper basically out of the show, and he was always just like the sixth member of that squad. And yeah, it's unfortunate because I love that comic. I love the boys to death. But speaking of love, the Writers Guild of America have seen fit to kind of start, you know, thinking very high-mindedly about all of the great scripts that have been written in the 21st century. And they've
all 21 years.
All 21 years of it. Like, we haven't even hit 25. Like, hit the quarter century mark before you start looking backward, in my view. But they have given us a top 10 list. And it's a very interesting list. Like, there's some things on here that I absolutely would expect to see on it, and others I'm just like, what? Like, really? But I guess we'll start at the bottom. I guess we'll show the top 15 because I didn't realize it went that far. But
yeah, it goes, I think, all the way up to like 40, but or something like that. But they only published the top 10 because that's all anybody cares about. They've
actually released the fuller list, I think. But but yeah, I guess the blurbs just talked about the top 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing the Sideways, okay, yeah, I guess that's Alexander Payne. People liked that. The Royal Tenenbaums, yeah, we love Wes Anderson. Brokeback Mountain, yeah, it's a pretty, soulful script. Bridesmaids, fuck no. No way. I would rather watch Brokeback Mountain any day of the week than Bridesmaids. But I'm glad that, Chris Nolan made it in. It's, number 10. Memento was my entry point into being a film snob. And I learned a lot just by reading that script and the short story it was based on and figuring out how those two brothers took one kernel of an idea and spun it out into two very different things. But yeah, almost that's the comment though, that the one thing that I noticed was there's very few films in the top 10 that didn't win the Oscar the year that they were nominated. Memento didn't win, Inglourious Bastards didn't win, There Will Be Blood did not win, and all the other ones did, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. And yes, Social Network being so high makes sense. That script was it's even though it's imperfect, we all roll our eyes, at Aaron Sorkin to an extent now, but I loved that movie.
Yeah, that movie was awesome.
That movie was awesome, and it was very well written. It deserved the Oscar. Eternal Sunshine, it's one of the most wildly original things that has ever been done. Mm-hmm. But what do we make of Get Out being number 1?
Oh, I like Get Out. I think it's Jordan Peele's. I mean, he has 2 movies, but I think it's his better movie. But it does not belong at number 1 on this list at all. Like, especially for script. If you're talking purely about script, you're not talking about performances. You're not talking about directing. You're not talking about how the movie was shot. This does not belong on this list for a script.
No, it's so slight. Yeah. And all of its, like, themes and commentary is so, like, ham-fisted in comparison to the elegance that a lot of these other scripts operate with. No, it seems way out of place. And there's such a recency bias to it that, it instantly just, like, smacked me in the face when I saw this list. I was just like, what?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just kind of like, more than anything, it's, like a sign of the times. I mean, when you look at what's happening in the world, of course, this is the number 1 slot. And I think they just wanted something controversial at number 1 because it drives more views. It drives readership. So
we have to be somewhat cynical about these things because it seems very cynical of them to just put it there in the first place. So yeah you're right. Like, we have to just be like, well, you're just putting this there to make me mad, and just not take the bait. Because have you seen, this is just my appreciation for Parasite, but they released like a quote unquote graphic novel of it where they took the storyboards that Bong Joon-ho drew and they put it alongside the script itself. It's really cool. It's just way too expensive for me to buy it. Like, okay. I've paged through it at Barnes & Noble a couple times. And
sure.
Yeah, because that movie being there makes fucking sense. Like, I really loved that one. But and like Moonlight, I guess I thought that movie was fine, but I don't know. Yeah, it was fine.
It was fine, and yeah, I think There Will Be Blood deserves to be there. I don't know if I would personally put Inglourious Basterds, but I understand why it's there. Like,
because but they just like the Christoph Waltz performance. A lot of people, I would say, that's what drives the affinity for that one. But honestly, this is my fucking hot take. I would rather have the Hateful Eight or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood there.
Oh yeah,
fuck. You could even say Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 if you're gonna have a Tarantino script in there. They pick I don't know. Inglourious Basterds just when he wrote it at the time, he literally thought it was his masterpiece. That's how he ended the movies. Like, I think this is my masterpiece. Hard cut, written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. Like, he had high aspirations for what this thing is, but he had so much more to offer beyond that. But,
I wonder if it has to do with the sort of mythic nature of that script before that movie came out, because that script got pushed around the internet so much before that movie was made. I printed that entire script out of a printer at school and then brought it to my job at the theater, and I read through that entire script while I was working at the movie theater.
Right on, dude.
So I mean, it that's probably why, is because it's so like mythic, or it used to have such like a mythic quality.
Because it was going to be so many different things as he was writing it. Because at one time it was just going to be about like buffalo soldiers in Germany or something like that. Like a behind enemy lines thing was still there, but he wanted it to be about a squad of like black troops before it changed to being Jews killing Nazis. Yeah. But sorry, you go.
I was gonna say, well, let me ask you this. I don't know if you thought about this at all, but what would you put on this list if you were making it? Like, did you think about that at all when you were?
I kind of did. Like, if I was gonna make a top 10, because I'm scrolling down through the top 40 here to see what else made. I think it's like a full 101.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, like they went all out with it, and. And as I think about it, a lot of what was in there, I am totally fine with, like as screenplays, because like I've read most of them, like there's with some exceptions, but I don't know, because like my personal choices, the ones I really like, I really liked the script for Inherent Vice, like that's not even in the 101, but like, "Oh brother, where art thou?" It was at the bottom. But if I really had to if I had to kick one out, I'd get rid of Get Out, and I'd put Grand Budapest Hotel up there.
Okay.
I love that fucking movie. I love that fucking great movie. And the script for it had to be just as strong. Granted, the guy making the script and making the movie are, like the through line from those individuals. Like, it's written so purposely. So what would you put in there that isn't in there?
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking about it a little bit earlier today, and what I came up with was I would probably stick Michael Clayton on there.
Fuck yeah.
Because that's a really good script.
That came in at 20.
Oh, really? Did it? Okay.
Yeah.
I would probably put The Phantom Thread, Moonrise Kingdom, Sicario, Collateral.
Ooh.
And then I think I think this is the biggest.
The Michael Mann movie, Collateral.
Yeah, Collateral.
Fuck yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The movie rules.
Yeah, it does.
But I think the biggest omission on this list is Training Day. They didn't put Training Day.
Holy shit. Okay. I'm just going to do a search and see if it's in this list at all. It is not. It didn't even make the 101.
That's so wild to me.
Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah, like Argo makes it in. Mean Girls makes it in. Borat and Ratatouille made it in. That makes sense. Legally Blonde, though, fuck you. You get the double guns. They get the double guns for that one. But another thing that I guess that I observed, and this is just unfortunately just the sign of the times we're in, with the exception of Get Out and Moonlight, pretty much all of the movies in the top 10 would not be nominated for anything today, because there are no, they do not match the racial quotas that now Hollywood insists upon. There's not enough minorities in those movies.
Because they put all those rules into place now, didn't they, at the Oscars?
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting observation from my point of view, because if we're going to insist on that kind of thing, then we shouldn't. Then I don't know. Like that kind of thing bugs me, but it is what it is. It's the sign of the times. But yeah, and I kind of feel like that's why Get Out is so high, because he's the lone African American, writer, along with, I guess, Barry Jenkins. The two of them are like the only African American writers in the top 10, and and that is kind of just a function of, unfortunately, the way that Hollywood was structured and, helping people move along in the industry. And obviously the tides are shifting, and that's a good thing. No one's arguing differently here. But it kind of, points out how ridiculous it is to look at skin color before the content, and, to judge it on those merits alone versus what the content is and what the merits of the content are. But anyway, that's getting lost in the weeds a little too much for our own good. So we're going to move on. So a lot of these movie studios now are kind of looking forward, beyond the virus of indeterminate origin, and a time where people will be able to more freely go to films in theaters. So they're doing away with all of these really convenient day and date releases, in theater and at home. Can you kind of break down the changes that are going to be coming to us in 2022?
Yeah, so I thought this would just be good to go over. So Universal, the thing that kind of spurred this was Universal announced a 45-day theatrical window for 2022, and then they're going to be putting their stuff on Peacock. And then WB is switching to 45 days also, away from the same-day release strategy they've been doing for this year. Paramount's a little more wishy-washy. They say a minimum 45-day window, but they say there's going to be a new movie on Paramount Plus every week in 2022. So I don't know what that means.
Like is it just a dumping ground for the shit you don't want to put in theater, or are you actually going to be giving people a reason? And
that would be my guess.
Yeah.
And then Sony's committed to theatrical releases, but they don't have a streaming service, so of course they are. Disney is going back to a pre-pandemic 70-day window. So yeah, that's basically like how they used to do it, before 2019. And then lastly, Lionsgate has not commented either way, but yeah, I guess the question going into this is what do you think this means? Are theaters back?
That's really up to your local governance, isn't it? Unfortunately, it's because I don't know what Minnesota has been like, but North Dakota has very much been feeling like pre-pandemic times, probably ever since everything opened back up again in like May of 2020, May of last year. Things felt very normal, and you could walk around and hug and kiss strangers and no one would say anything to you. And lately, I guess, when I went to a movie, earlier this week or last week, and I'll be talking about that next, but just the experience was, for a movie that had been out for a bit, it was still a pretty full theater, actually. For a movie that's marginal and you have to be really, into the thing to care about it. But yeah, people around here go to movies like they go bowling. It's just something for them to do. And it's something to do instead of going to a bar. And a lot of people are, doing that around here. And yeah, I don't know. Like a lot of this is wrapped up in the P word, politics, for a lot of different jurisdictions. And depending, like if you lived in California, it hasn't been very fun to go to the movies. So I don't know how many people have been, because they have to get a temperature test. You have to, pass through a bunch of checks. All I got to do is give some guy $5 and I can go see a movie in Bismarck, North Dakota without too much fuss. So yeah, I don't know. I'm hopeful. I would rather have a more traditional release style, versus being able to go see Dune in a magnificent theater and then just come home and watch it on my, the 1368 by 728 monitor. It seemed a little gross at the time, when Dune came out. I was like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I think this is all like pretty good signs, all this stuff happening. And I think the one thing that we have to kind of be careful of is like this whole 45-day window, and then all these companies are putting these movies on like their individual streaming services. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's a possibility in the future, we're looking at a future where you can no longer rent new movies. Like you can't go on iTunes, you can't go on Amazon Video, you can't go on Vudu and rent movies. You have to go to a specific streaming service to watch a movie. Like what I'm reminded of like Netflix, because Netflix, you have to have Netflix in order to watch Netflix original movies. You can't go rent them in a video on demand rental store. So
you can buy them at Walmart though. So I guess you can get the hard copy, but you can't, like you said, you can't just be like, I'm going to rent this tonight. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
you have to be a subscriber. So that's kind of the thing that the only thing I would be wary of is that, they're trying to move into a future where they're like, oh, we can cut out iTunes and we can cut out Amazon and we can cut out every other movie rental service,
because it's all business. And we'll dig into, I guess, this somewhat, later on, but that is the reality of it. They don't like sharing the pie, any more than they have to. And, the bread and butter of, Amazon, and Apple too, with their business models is getting a piece, of every single transaction. Like, with video games, Fortnite literally took them to court, like Epic took them to court over this very issue. And as the metaverse develops, we're just going to I think we're going to see the metaverse kind of take primacy in this whole situation as well, too, as far as how you get your content. Because it's not going to be as a la carte as it has been, like the last 10 years or so. And it will become much more of a, boutique. You need to be a member of our special club or you don't get to see this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
But, moving right along, I was able to see Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, and it was a much better time than I thought it was going to be. I'll start out with that. Because they did something very interesting as far as an adaptation of the source material goes, which was very unlike the Paul W.S. Anderson movies, which I really couldn't stand.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I remember watching the original Resident Evil movie and just being like, "This sucks." Where's the shit that freaked me the fuck out? Like when I played the GameCube Resident Evil remake, and what they did with this was take a hip young CW cast, get some stolid character work from Michael McDonough and Donald Logue, and we will do this strange mishmash of the first 2 Resident Evil games, basically.
Okay.
And for the most part, it's successful. Like I say, the cast. There's one guy from Robbie Amell is in it. One of the guys from the Umbrella Academy, plays Wesker, which didn't work for my friends, but I was kind of fine with. And the end result feels a lot more like a pilot for a streaming series than it does the first in a film franchise. So for the most part, it's successful, but they obviously were working with a tiny budget, and there's some very familiar moments that really kept the spirit of the games present in it. And yeah, I was happy. I had a good time with it, but I went to $5 Tuesdays to enjoy this, this little bit of cinema, and frankly, it would have served just as well to have just been a show on Netflix or something.
Okay.
Yeah, you haven't seen this yet, I take it?
No, I haven't seen it. I mean, I definitely want to see it eventually, and I'm a big fan of the games, and yeah, I really hope that from what I heard, there is an end credit scene, right?
Yeah.
There's okay.
Yeah, there is.
So hopefully another one happens, but I don't know if it's very likely.
It's not very likely, but I am hopeful because but they do kind of, if you care about the continuity of the games, I'm sorry, but they do not give a shit. They take a sliver of this thing from Resident Evil 0, and then they take these 3 things from the first 2 games and move them around, and they make it fit in a way that's coherent, but only if you aren't coming with a frame of reference. Because my buddies who were have a deep appreciation for the games were just mad the entire movie, and I was like, okay, I understand why you're mad, but I am just beyond being that anal about things like this when I know that I'm going to be disappointed if I am.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Kat? The Cher's making a cameo. There's her butt. But yeah, definitely check it out when you get a chance to, because there is some nastiness to it. It is kind of gross in the right ways. The zombies are pretty good for the most part. Cher, you cut that out. I'm gonna kick you in the butt. But definitely check it out. Michael McDonough does a pretty good fucking job. And not to spoil anything, but he kind of becomes the end boss of the movie. And they deliver. They give you exactly what the games give you at the end of the first Resident Evil game. So if you know how that goes, you'll kind of have an idea about where it all ends up. But that's what I got to see in theaters.
Okay.
And the only thing I really got to catch on video on demand on streaming that was new to me, at any rate, was the movie The Beta Test. what do you know about that? Have you heard of that movie?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've seen it on like a online storefront, and I've looked at it, but yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it.
Yeah,
What do you make of it?
It's a lean, mean little movie because it's a Jim Cummings is the filmmaker and main actor in it, and he's made some very, respected if uneven, films, prior to this that a lot of people rate highly, but he's almost like he's a more productive Shane Carruth in that way because he does literally everything. And starring, acting, editing, the whole thing. And this one is basically just about a Hollywood agent, who's trying to land a big fish, and faking it till he makes it. And there's this undercurrent, throughout the whole movie that the way that the business is done in Hollywood is going to leave people like him behind because they're all realizing, wait a minute, why do I have to bring you in on this? Why do you have to take any slice of my pie? Fuck you. So there's just all these really funny, like, office scenes where these people are trying to, like, brainstorm how they're all still going to have jobs in, like, a year or two. But the premise is he gets a weird, like, invitation in the mail for a no strings attached, assignation in a hotel room. And it has a bunch of checks for him to, like, what are your preferences? Are you a bottom? Are you a top? Do you like women or men? Are you submissive? Do you like, doggy style or face sitting? And then you fill it out and you send it back. And then they pair you up with a person and give you, like, a hotel key. And he does it. And it's just about all of the ramping anxiety and terror as he's trying to figure out what exactly is going on with him and and what is the story behind the envelope he received. And a delightfully nasty little movie. But it's ultimately just an exploration of technology, the internet, and and the danger of living in public the way we do through social media. And they kind of hint at it in the beginning because these Hollywood agents, they're kind of talking, they're trying to, like, puff themselves up about how smart they are. So it's like, how do you make contact with someone who doesn't know who you are and has no interest in talking to you? Well, you find unique ways to reach out to them. Are you familiar with, like, Venmo and things like that? Yeah, you can search pretty much anybody. So, like, they pull up Ted Sarandos's Venmo account and, like, send him money and, like, initiate a conversation with him. And that's kind of like where that's the jumping off point for the rest of the movie. And it's a hard recommend for me. I really enjoyed it. Like, my face was in my mouth almost the whole time because I was like, ah! But like most of his films, they kind of lose steam towards the end. And he has great premises. He puts on a great performance. It's in keeping with his usual roles because he always plays an alcoholic. Those are the characters he always writes for himself. And this guy is just such a irredeemable cunt. You hate him. You hate the character he's playing, throughout the movie until, like, the final moments, and that's when he really becomes sympathetic. And I'd recommend you see it. It was worth the watch, worth the time. And the sound.
Have you seen his other ones?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Where would you put it?
It's not as good as the was it Wolf Hollow or not Wolf Hollow? Yeah. Like that one is his best one. This is better than Thunder Road, though. It's a much more. It has a better idea of what it is versus Thunder Road, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's definitely improving as a filmmaker, and he's it's a very unique premise that he uses to its fullest potential. But it just kind of peters out at the end, and you're kind of left going, okay, what was the point of all of this? And then the final shots really drive home, like the whole, because like everything he is going through is just the first run at whatever is going on. Like there's something larger that's going to be unleashed upon the world, and it's going to be terrible. So yeah, that's the beta test. But you also, so you dove into Voir, Noir. I have to say Noir first.
Voir.
Voir. What? Yeah, we kind of talked about it at the end of last show, but yeah, like what's going on with that?
Yeah, so this is 6. The episodes are very short. 6 episodes between 15 and 20 minutes long, and they're kind of like film essays where they took 6 film critics, mostly film critics, and they just let them run, kind of let them write sort of like a script, and then most of the episodes are just these film critics narrating whatever they're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead.
Well, I just recognized one of the names on there, Tony Zhao. He did Every Frame a Painting on YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and his episode is one of the better ones. He did an episode about revenge films and why people like to watch them.
Okay.
Like how people relate to like irredeemable, people who are looking for revenge. And so his episode was really good. The first one is kind of meh. It's basically this is the weird thing about this series, is that some of the episodes are about specific movies, and then some of the episodes are about like ideas surrounding films. So the first episode is about Jaws, and it's about what it was like to see Jaws when it opened in theaters in the 70s.
Okay.
And so that one's okay, but I like the more like heady episodes, I guess, like the revenge one. And then there's another one done by Drew McQueenie, former writer from Ain't It Cool News, who he did an episode about how characters don't have to be likable to be compelling.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of that's a really stupid argument that a lot of people like to make, is that you need likable characters in order for a movie to be good. And
And case in point is the beta test. Like movie would not work if you liked the main character. You have to hate him a little bit to be interested in what's happening to him.
So I mean, his was really good. He's such a good writer. I've been following him for a long time, and and then the other ones were kind of hit or miss. The one I really didn't like was the last episode, done by. Have you ever heard of the film critic Walter Chaw?
No, I've never heard that name before.
I've read some of his stuff, and I've heard him on podcasts before. He's like guested on a couple of podcasts I listen to, and he writes for a website called Film Freak Central, and then occasionally he'll get like bylines in like the New York Times and stuff. But his episode's about the movie 48 Hours, like the Eddie Murphy Nick Nolte movie, and I think he's, as a critic, the guy is, I think, very overly concerned with like social issues. Like he tries to do every single one of his reviews through like a social lens or like a political lens, and it's really annoying. And this is kind of no different. He's the type of guy who would like go and like watch Mad Max Fury Road, and he would say like, what were all the people in Indonesia doing? Why aren't there any Indonesian people in this movie? It's close to Australia. Why, that's like the lens he would look at it through. He always finds a way to kind of incorporate some sort of political grievance or social grievance. And so I really didn't like his episode. I think he's kind of a hack, but
he writes for Sandra Bullock, whose primary concern is that Squid Game doesn't have more black people in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like he looks for ways to kind of just very, very clumsily throw in like commentary that doesn't really. And his episode, like I said, it's about the movie 48 Hours, which isn't even relevant. And there's a reason why they put it as the last episode in the series, because if you've watched all the episodes to get to that episode, you're probably going to watch that one too. Whereas if they would have put it as like the first episode, nobody would have kept watching the show.
It would have been a hard no for me. I would have been like, it's going to be all of this, isn't it? And I just would have found something else.
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad.
But that's the only one that's like outright bad. Like the other ones are all, serviceable to really, really good. So I would recommend episodes 1 to 5. So
right on. I'll have to take the time to do that because
yeah,
I love everybody involved in making it, obviously, and I've missed Tony Zhao because he quit doing Every Frame of Painting not too long ago.
Yeah, like in 2017.
Yeah, and because God, he was so good. I loved all of his video essays. An inspiration, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely look up Voir. And at long last, though, we have Dr. Brain on Apple TV. Yeah. What can you tell me about this thing? What the fuck is it?
Yeah, so I've been kind of quietly watching this for the last episode premiered this week. There were 6 total, and this is from Kim Ji-woon, I think is how you say his name. And so this is about a scientist who figures out a way to sort of hook his brain up to the brains of recently deceased people, and then he can like download their memories to his brain.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's kind of like do you know iZombie, the comic or the TV show? Yeah, it's kind of like that. And it's like a mystery, typical like Korean mystery show. Kim Ji-woon only did the first 2 episodes, I think, and you can kind of tell because the show kind of takes a turn for the more not mediocre, but rudimentary, I guess, once his episodes are done. And it's just kind of it's a very like serviceable mystery, and it really pays off in the end. And there's some really, weird Korean, like batshit stuff that happens. Like there's a part in the show where he hooks up his like brain device to a dead cat.
Oh, what the fuck?
And then he like downloads the cat's memories. But one of the side effects of the device he uses is that sometimes he takes on the traits of the dead person he's connecting to. So he once he hooks up to the cat, he starts seeing better in the dark, and his like motor skills become really refined.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So he becomes like a cat. Yeah, so he gets like superpowers basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right on.
So yeah,
interesting.
It's a pretty good show though, and it's not something that I would have expected to be on Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like you say, it just has a batshit premise, and it's very, and in the like at the same time, like it could veer into K-drama territory. Hey, cut that out, cat. Cut that out. Sorry.
Sorry.
She's attacking the carpet. Yeah. Yet again, it's like they just keep ramping up. They keep giving me more reasons to subscribe. They keep giving me more reasons. Yeah. And you also saw something called Copshop, which is the latest from Joe Carnahan.
Yeah. So this
and where can you even find this? First of all,
this is a rental. So this one, I was actually waiting for the price to drop because they had it at a premium price because it was technically, one of those movies that they say is in theaters, in theaters now. And so for a while it was a $20 rental, and I was like, no way. So I waited till it dropped to $6, and then I rented it last night. And I just wanted to mention this one quickly because if you know Joe Carnahan, you kind of know what you're getting into. Like in my opinion, he's kind of like a more talented Brett Ratner. Like he basically. So, and it's just kind of it's a really violent crime action movie, and very similar to Smokin' Aces, but just kind of on like a smaller scale. Okay. And it was pretty decent. I would recommend it.
So just a lot of really dangerous people converging on the same space, and a lot of badass shit gets to happen. You gotta love premises like that. I'm just seeing lots of familiar faces in this trailer. I'm interested. I'm glad you brought it up because I'm always on the hunt for for good content, and a lot of stuff just gets lost in the shuffle for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there's just so many fish in the sea these days. Yeah, moving on to the mentionables. The Game Awards happened.
Yeah.
And that's usually not something I pay attention to. But you mostly were there, strictly speaking, just for the announcements. And there's our good friend. His name's Jeff Keighley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dorito Pope himself.
Oh my God! Look at that bad tan. That makeup is just so bad.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So I watch these pretty much every year just because like it's literally a trailer show with a side of awards. Like they shouldn't even call it an award show. Like it's just like trailer after trailer of new games, and usually it's pretty heavy on like the cringe, and it's kind of funny to watch for that. But this year they had it pretty down to a science as far as like the production goes, and people were kind of scaled back, and so there wasn't too much of that this year, but there was a lot of good like game announcements. So
there wasn't like it wasn't like E3 cringe, like where the internet can kind of insert itself into the equation. Yeah. Okay. So so what were the big announcements for you as far as the trailers? What's worth checking out? What should we be getting excited about?
Yeah. So I have you ever played Hellblade? The game Hellblade?
I'm familiar with it.
Okay.
I haven't played it though, but it looks gorgeous. Like I just don't think my graphics card could handle it.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
it's one of those situations.
Yeah. It's so Hellblade 2 was shown off, the first bit of gameplay, and it was one of those trailers where you're watching it and then you suddenly realize halfway through that you're actually watching gameplay and you're not watching like a pre-rendered cutscene.
Yeah.
So because it looks so insane.
And that's where games are going these days. Like
for sure.
It's kind of getting intense, how convincing they're getting. Because I know you're gonna bring up the Star Wars Eclipse. I watched the trailer for that, and as I was watching it, I was like, "Is this a movie or is this like is this a game?" I wasn't sure. I really wasn't sure until the end of it.
So
go ahead.
That was that was insane. Yeah, you can pull that up. That's the first Star Wars game that's going to be in like the High Republic era, which if anybody doesn't know is like 1,000 years before the original trilogy or something like that. And this is kind of the era that they've been taking in like the comics and like the novels and stuff, because I think they're just kind of looking for like a blank slate. They don't want to be hampered by, all the movies and all of the other stuff. They just want a clean slate to do whatever they want. So, and this is being made by Quantic Dream, which was the studio that made Detroit Become Human. You ever heard of that?
Yeah, I haven't played that one, but I did play Heavy Rain back in the day, and Indigo Prophecy. So I'm very familiar with them as a developer, and I just love the idea of them doing Star Wars, especially if it's going to look like this.
Yeah, that'd be nuts. But yeah, so this looks really, really cool. And then let's see, what else was I going to mention? Oh, there's going to be so this is kind of just me being self-serving, but there's going to be a Expanse video game.
What kind of a game?
So this is going to be made by Telltale, which is the studio that makes all those like adventure games, like The Walking Dead, and I think they did a Wolf Among Us.
Yeah, the Fables game. That was really
Fables
good.
Game. Yeah. And so they're doing an Expanse game now, and the only thing we know about it right now is that if anybody's familiar with the show, it's going to follow Drummer, the character Drummer.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah, so it looks. They didn't show off a whole lot. I think this is just kind of like a concept-y type thing.
Just get hyped, people.
Yeah, pretty much. And then there was, let's see, I guess the last thing that I'll mention is the Matrix thing. So
the Matrix Awakens.
This was
what the fuck was this?
This was okay. So this is like obviously partially a marketing opportunity for the movie that comes out in 2 weeks, but then this is also like a demo for Unreal Engine 5. And the kind of cool thing about this is that usually when these type of things happen, they're not playable, or if they are playable, it's like completely on rails. But with this, you kind of go through this on rails section at the beginning, but then at the end, they throw you into an open world.
Oh, what the fuck?
And you can like fly around a city in Unreal Engine 5, and it looks so insane. Like just like it's so realistic and so lifelike. And if you, I don't know, if are you able to scroll like in the video that you're watching?
Oh, there's like advance forward.
Go about 3/4 of the way through, if you can.
Okay, so here's the rail stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the open world section. Okay.
Yeah. So it looks so crazy, like when you're, because this is only available for PS5 and Xbox Series X. Because it's pretty demanding, and there's parts in the tech demo where the frame rate really hitches, because it's so demanding. But yeah, I mean, if you look at it, and you can play with all these like fun options, like you can turn the city nighttime, daytime, and you can.
My God.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But,
but I imagine that they made it specifically for those two consoles. So, well, that's the thing. Do they have ray tracing yet?
Yeah, they do.
They do? Okay. Because that's the thing that most PC gamers, unless you are selling a kidney or two, you can't really afford a ray tracing graphics card that can keep up with something like this. Yeah. But oh my God, the way that all the light reflects on the streets, like that's a big thing. But yeah, the light through the buildings, oh my, like it's impressive, and it almost makes me wish that I had invested in a console instead. But I will continue to plug along with my lucky GTX 980 Ti and see how far it can take me until it dies. Because moving on to the next mentionable is Halo's back, baby. And it's free if you have a Game Pass subscription. I guess like the multiplayer always was free. They're just trying to get some of that like Game Pass or like the Battle Pass money. They're trying the Fortnite-ification of Halo. But I've played I'm only like 5 hours into the campaign, but I'm into it, and I haven't really played a Halo game since Halo 3, and it feels very similar to that as far as the gameplay is concerned. And I love the open world for the most part, but like, what did you think of it? Have you played a lot of the Halo games since the original trilogy?
Yeah, I've played all of them except for 5, because I never had a Xbox One, and that's I think that for some reason they've kind of locked that game behind that console. Like you can't get it. I don't think you can get it on PC, and you can't get it on Xbox Series X.
It's not in the Master Chief Collection either.
Yeah. So I played all the others though, and I'm pretty familiar with like the story, and I've gotten about 10 hours in. I'm right at well, let me ask you this. What was the last like story beat that happened for you?
I just killed, I didn't save, but I tried to save a Spartan that was captured. So I had like my first real boss battle of the game.
Okay. Yeah. So you were in that tower?
Yeah.
At the top of that tower? Okay. Yeah. So I'm a little bit past that, and I think it's really, really great. The open world style that they've done this one in, I think it both helps and hurts the game, in that like you can, there's definitely more to do. And I think the moment to moment gameplay is more fun than a regular Halo game.
Yeah.
But the highs aren't quite as high as a more corridor-based Halo game, because they can't develop, or they can't structure the scenes as much as they want to. Like in open world games, you have to kind of go out and create your own fun. Like you have to find the fun. And with the corridor shooter Halo games, you kind of stumble onto set pieces and action scenes and stuff like that. So
yeah, and whereas with this, it was like one of the interactions I had that actually I had the most fun with was accidentally baiting like a giant like gunship to attack me, and and then I had a scorpion nearby, so then I just started blowing it up with the scorpion, and I didn't realize I could actually take that thing on and win, you know. But I think you're correct on that, because this feels a lot more like a Far Cry game in that aspect, the open world aspect. I love the idea of treating the Halos as boundless as they are supposed to be. But I guess I haven't had quite enough chance to really dig into the meat, you know, of the experience of it. I've spent more time doing multiplayer, you know, matches with a buddy of mine before I go to work in the morning. And I will, you know, bitch about the fact that you can't just join a Slayer, you know, lobby. You know, you're just signing up for some random game and you have no idea what. You don't have
really?
You don't have you cannot say I just want to play oddball and then find an oddball match. It's like the developers have said, like, they just kind of waffle about it, saying like, oh, we haven't got the code right to set up a system like that. And I'm like, bull fucking shit. Like, this is basic deathmatch, you know, matchmaking. This has been going on since, you know, like the Dwango system with Dune 2, if you're familiar with that. Like, it should be simple. And, you know, pretty much any other shooter does that. And it's strange to me that they're just treating it like a roulette wheel. And I have played like one traditional Slayer deathmatch, you know, game in the dozens of them that I've played since I downloaded the multiplayer aspect of the game. But I look forward to getting more into the story, because it's not something that I'm heavily invested in, but I do love the character, and I do have, you know, some interest in where this is all going. When we went to Comic-Con back in 2011, do you remember sitting in on that Halo panel?
Yeah.
And like Greg Bear, the sci-fi writer, is up there talking about this Forerunner series he was doing. The Red vs. Blue guys were there. Is that even still a thing? Is Rooster Teeth even still around? I don't know. But it's such a part of the cultural fabric for me, you know, for like over the last 20 years of my life, that I'm glad that I can dip my toes back in, you know, without having to, you know, spend a boatload of money to do it. So they got me, just because that Game Pass, like you've pointed out, is an embarrassment of riches. And this is one of them, certainly.
What, let me ask you real quick, what's your favorite gun in the game?
I really like that it's one that the Brutes have. It's a energy based, like I think it's like the Ravager is what it's called.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a cheat button. It's a cheat code. It's like, that's how I won that boss fight, because I had just been getting killed because I just using basic, you know, guns, you know, against that elite with that crazy sword. And then as I'm like running around in a circle trying to survive, I am like, oh wait, there's a Ravager right there. Bang, 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 and then the boss battle is over. So it's cheap, but in multiplayer too, it's really fucking satisfying, because you can like snipe people across the map with it if you like time your blast well enough, and people don't see it coming, and it just takes your shield out with the first shot, and then you're roasted with the next one.
Yeah, I like. I think all the guns are so satisfying. Like this game has some of like the best selection of guns in like a shooter ever, and I really like the Hydra. It's called.
I haven't gotten across that yet.
It fires like mini missiles, like where you. It's actually like it's almost like bolt action, but with little missiles. So you have to like put them in one by one. And it shoots. Yeah, they're mini missiles. It's basically like a mini rocket launcher, and they can the right click button is like a homing, so you can hone in on somebody and then shoot them, and it's pretty satisfying.
God, I forget the name of it, but it's not like the battle rifle. It's not your garden variety assault rifle. It's like a different, like kind of like more refined like sniper. It's not the sniper rifle, but it's like it still is a machine. I can't remember what it's called, but like I found it and I just started like, but I could like zoom in and like just hit grunts in the head with it. And I just forgot how satisfying it was to kill those little fuckers. Yeah. I hate them so much. Yeah. Oh my god. Halo Infinite, it's back, baby. And yeah,
play it.
Play it for sure.
Yeah.
But now we're coming up on the very special segment, which was your idea, Matt. Why don't you introduce it?
Yeah, so this is what we're going to do here is a ranking of the big streaming services. And basically what we mean by that is we're specifically excluding streaming services that are basically content dumps for TV channels. So no like Showtime, no like CBS app, like no, just any TV channel that has its own app, we're not doing. This has to be a streaming service that is either like has their own programming or is somehow tied into a TV channel, but also has their own programming. And this is the way that I kind of approach this is sort of in the year 2021. I don't know how you did, but I took this as like, I'm not counting years previous to this. I'm taking this as like, how worthwhile is this streaming service in this year going into next year? So
yeah, then that's the right way to do it because things aren't what they used to be because like more people are entering the game. The like certain parties can't just be the home for everyone's content like they were maybe at one time. You have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and give people a reason to come to you. And it's a lot of harder proposition than I think a lot of these companies would think it would be when they set out to do them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then, so we're going to do letter grades here too. So we've got 3 categories, original programming, back catalog, and then the platform that the streaming service has. So like by what we mean by that is the quality of the audio and the video, how easy to use the app is, the price even could be factored into that, how easy you can navigate with the app, how often you have like shitty buffering with the app, stuff like that. So
the whole package, all the pieces matter. Yeah, and at least they matter to us. It doesn't seem to matter to some of these platforms. But to get started, we will, I guess I hesitate to start with the biggest, of the bunch, but we're going to start with Hulu. Which I remember when all Hulu was weird commercials with Eliza Dushku and Alec Baldwin, where they were like vaguely insinuated to be aliens. They really didn't know how to advertise these things, 10 years ago. And yeah, Hulu. Let's just so original programming. Why don't you give us the rundown on what you had to say on that one?
Yeah, so Hulu this year has not been very great for me. I think it skews a little bit too much towards like reality TV and like basic cable shows like Fox and NBC and ABC, and then like game show genres, like stupid game shows like The Wall or like, shit like that. And I think the thing for original programming for me, the thing that keeps them afloat is their FX on Hulu shows. Like that's the thing that keeps them afloat because I watch most of those. I watch What We Do in the Shadows and Reservation Dogs. And last year I watched Devs. But of course we're not factoring that in, it's that's what's keeping them afloat this year, and that's kind of why I decided to give them a C+ in regards to that. So,
and what about their back catalog? So that, let me pull it back up again.
Yeah, go ahead. So
B-. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a little bit better than their original stuff, and that's because they're owned by Disney, so they have the 20th Century Fox back catalog, Miramax, Touchstone, Dimension, all those defunct movie studios. And then they also get newer movies pretty quickly, like Pig and Parasite, and they got Possessor pretty fast, and the documentary this summer that was released called Summer of Soul. So they tend to get newer movies pretty fast, like not too long after they're released to rent online. So that's kind of why I went into that.
Why did you give it a D for the platform?
Yeah, so this mostly because it's hard to navigate, and no 4K streaming at all. Nothing is 4K on there. But at the same time, working in its favor, Hulu's pretty cheap. It's only $6.99 a month, and that's when you pay for it on its own. It's even cheaper if you get like a package thing with
Disney Plus and ESPN Plus, which is of course what they're going for with that kind of thing.
Yeah. And then the only other thing that I said is kind of working against them in regards to the platform is that they make you pay more for no commercials. And if you don't get the no commercial plan, they really throw in a lot of commercials. It's like once every probably like 5 or 6 minutes when you're watching a TV show. So
yeah, see, I pay a premium, so I don't have to have commercials with it.
Okay,
but
sure.
But this is the one I would cut loose as soon as I fucking could. It does have like you I don't know, our rates for this were kind of the same, our grades, but I really fucking hate it as a platform. I hate how, I don't know, like they never give me the things in front of me that I want to see, and if I want to quickly find a show that I was watching, like later, like earlier, or like the night before, I have to like pour through all of the dregs of crap that they want me to click on in order to find the thing I do want. It does suck that it's nothing's in 4K, and and I also just hate the color scheme. It makes my eyes bleed. So that's why they got a big fat F for me, and it really dragged them down. But like they're the one that I would get rid of in a heartbeat. However, what really keeps me there is the back catalog, which is all their adult animation stuff, like being able to watch Futurama and Family Guy and Archer, and even Solar Opposites. I rather enjoyed. I actually kind of prefer Solar Opposites, to Rick and Morty, which is Justin Roiland's prime show. But I prefer Solar Opposites, but it's not enough. It's not enough to make me want to hold on to it. So I really took a dump on Hulu because it doesn't. There's just so much trash on there, and I know and it's all trash from TV, which is what I wanted to get away from. But my girlfriend likes watching RuPaul's Drag Race, so I kind of have an inclination to hold on to it for her. Even and that show can be entertaining if you're just in the mood for trash and junk food. It's junk food, of the highest order. But the one that I feel a little more strongly about is Amazon Prime. I gave it a C+ for the original programming because a lot of it, especially lately, has just felt like really, basic bullshit that like AMC would have done, like when they were trying to find an identity post Mad Men, Breaking Bad. And I know that like the Jack Ryan shows don't really have a lot for me. A lot of the movies that they've tried to put out, like they haven't done too many, but they just haven't grabbed me. The back catalog is the only reason I go there, because I like Homecoming. I also just like treating it like a storefront. It's like the Walmart bargain bin of streaming platforms. If I want to rent something for $4, I probably can find it there. Yeah, and that's the value that it gives me, and it's I have this thing just because I have an Amazon Prime account, so I might as well use it, and that's where I get a lot of my value from it.
Sure.
And yeah, so overall, yeah, it's an average platform. Yeah, does this have 4K? I guess I'm never quite sure.
Yeah. So yeah, the nice thing about Amazon is it's free 4K, and it's like they don't make you pay more, and a lot of their stuff is in 4K just by default. So.
Okay, cool. Because I don't really get a notification, like or an indication when I'm watching it on my 4K TV. But yeah, though I love they have most of the horror movies I like seeing. Like, and their curated content, works pretty well for me. Sorry, I'm just gonna put it back up there again for it turned off. Hang on, let's try this again. There we go. But so you kind of what would I guess you go ahead now on your grades for it.
So I kind of, with original programming, I did a C-, and that's because I think they're like extremely slow to get new stuff. I saw actually a TV ad for Prime Video the other day, and they were still advertising like movies and shows that came out last summer.
Yeah.
So that kind of tells you like the clip at which stuff comes out on there. And but I do like some of the stuff they've released this year, like Invincible and The Expanse just started up again. And I actually did like that Without Remorse with Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, really?
Movie. Yeah, so, the Tom Clancy movie.
So the Tom Clancy verse is something that is developing and worth diving into.
That one is. The Jack Ryan show is kind of meh, but I liked the Michael B. Jordan movie. That was pretty good.
That book kicks ass. I guess I don't know how closely they hew to it, but it's just an ex-CIA agent, going Charles Bronson on drug dealers. So it's pretty awesome. So okay, right on. Okay.
Yeah. Watch it if you get a chance. But,
I'll have to give it more of a chance.
Yeah, and then back catalog I put B because they're pretty good. They bought MGM earlier this year, and they've slowly been putting those movies on there, and they're kind of like, I'm going to compare them to Netflix here, where there's really no rhyme or reason to the movies that they get.
Yeah.
I think they just kind of like, there's no like specific partnerships they have, and they're just kind of like, we'll pay you for this movie and this movie, and there's no rhyme or reason. It's just like they get movies from tons of different studios, and that can be kind of a good thing or a bad thing. But and then the app I put an A because most people are getting this as a side effect to the shipping service.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're getting a pretty good value, and the 4K is free, and their actual streaming quality I've noticed is really good too.
It's consistent. Yeah,
it's very consistent, and there's very little, like, the one thing I fucking hate about streaming movies is when there's a lot of artifacting, where the blacks look more like dark grays, and you can see the little like artifacting boxes in really dark scenes, and their streaming quality is really good. So that's kind of why I gave them an A. And
it fucking should be, because Amazon Web Services is literally the backbone of the internet right now.
Yeah.
So they better have the best delivery, of this kind of shit. Yeah. So I forget why I didn't quite give it an A, but like it just kind of they are cumbersome at times, like the menu, like the hopping from like PC to a TV, or even like heaven forbid on your phone. It just sometimes things are just a little too tiny. It's never quite clear to me what to click on. So I was being a little nitpicky, when I was grading it, because I just like it just to be in front of me and for me to be able to still flip my finger around and find what I want to find, or whatever it might be. And sometimes I get hung up. It's not as bad as Hulu by any measure, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I guess you brought up Netflix, so we'll just hop right into Netflix next. So they're the OG. They're the ones that wrote the book on it. But what do you have to say about Netflix?
Yeah, so first off, original programming, they have way too many things. They don't really seem to care about quality. They just kind of do a bunch of shit, and then some of it's good and some of it's bad, and they're just looking to fill space, kind of. And there was some pretty good stuff though this year, despite that. You throw enough stuff at the wall, some of it sticks. So Squid Game, Lupin, the movie The Dig, Power of the Dog, that those were all really good. And then I also liked do you watch the Untold series, the sports series on there?
Yeah, those are good.
Those are really good.
And I also really like the movies that made us. Like even though like it's nothing special, but it's just something cool to put on and be like, oh, okay, I didn't know that, because they do have some nuggets sometimes. But
yeah, it's like trivia.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But they're I don't know. I look at Netflix as a sea of endless trash, and there's some islands of hope, that pop up every once in a while. Because they have been, because since they don't have a TV studio of their own to make shitty reality TV and competition shows, that's mostly what they've been churning out lately. Like that, or like, I don't know, like there was that animated spy show where they're all, the gay stereotypes, which they pushed relentlessly, like as far as advertising elsewhere and on the platform itself. I had that thrown in my face a lot. And golly, that's the thing that I hate the most about Netflix is the I hate the autoplay feature. I wish they wouldn't do that, because most other platforms don't. If I want to see a trailer of what I'm about to watch, I'll click on it. If you can make it easy enough for me to find out what the watch trailer button is, which some of these platforms don't do. But yeah, the original programming is just, it's really annoying to me, because either it's something really good that I'm excited to see it, pop up, or it's just shit that I wish I could just make go away forever from my view, which they don't make it very easy to do that either.
Yeah, for sure.
But their back catalog isn't as strong as it used to be. Like I know they recently picked up Seinfeld, which was a big coup for them, but that's not forever. They don't get to have Seinfeld forever. And
that gets passed around a lot. So.
It does. And the stuff that they built their reputation on is kind of an embarrassment to them now. Like, they can't hold up the fact that they have House of Cards, in their library anymore, because of everything that Kevin Spacey did while they were making it, and the power and influence they gave him, when they, made that show. And yeah, the things that I wish that they would support, like the things like Mindhunter, they just make me wait way too long for more of that stuff. And like we discussed at the top of the show, they don't quite stand behind the content that they do. I don't know. There should be more Cowboy Bebop coming, regardless of if the fans liked it, or if, I don't know, but maybe people just weren't watching it. So maybe they okay, sunk. We don't want to put any more into it. But they don't have a lot of commitment behind the things that they do try and put out there. So that weakens the back catalog, because they have a lot of truncated shows that aren't going anywhere and will never go anywhere, and are aren't gonna. Yeah, it's just they're a disappointment, because they were the future. Damn it. But they fucked up. They fucked around and found out to an extent.
Yeah, you rarely see a show that goes over 3 seasons on Netflix because of their sort of commitment issues. But yeah, I gave it a B for back catalog, and mostly because they have a lot of stuff. I mean, just like their original programming, they have a lot of stuff, but a lot of it's garbage. But they do have a partnership with Sony, so they do get a lot of Sony movies, which is nice. But that's going to be actually ending here next year. And it kind of just seems like they're burning a lot of bridges now. And they're pretty soon, I think we're going to eventually get to a point where Netflix, their back catalog's just going to be Netflix stuff. It's going to be because they've had now, like 10 years of shows to build up a back catalog. So yeah, I mean, that's what's going to happen. But and then for the app itself, or for the platform itself, I gave a B, because I think they have probably like the most refined app out of all the streaming services. Like, it rarely ever glitches, it rarely ever has buffering issues. I like how they kind of arrange it where they have like the top 10, so you can kind of see what's like popular.
Yeah, they kind of treat it like a network, like a social network in that regard, more so than just a broadcasting network. Like, it's like there's some interactivity there where you're like, oh yeah, this is what other customers are actually consuming. Yeah. But it is the most expensive out of all of them, though. If you want the 4K, isn't it? It's like $18.
Yeah, $18. They make you pay more for 4K, and not everything's in 4K either. So
no, you really got to be lucky. Yeah, you have to seek it out, and I don't even think they have a 4K like feed either. Where all the selections in it are the 4K movies. I think they don't. You have to go elsewhere to get that aggregated list of it all. Mm-hmm. Which is too bad, because the 4K stuff that they do have looks amazing. Like, and that is like and this is more credit to their back catalog of like the prestige movies that they have put their name on. Like The Irishman being on there was quite the coup, at the time. But yeah, how much longer will they be able to convince prestige directors to make movies with them? I don't know. Yeah, it remains to be seen, but they kind of have fumbled the ball, to an extent, and they aren't the shining example that they used to be. We're gonna hop over to a new kid on the block, so to speak, with our next one. It's a Disney Plus, and I got this for free with my cell phone package, and I held on to it, after the fact, because it was so fucking cheap, and it was easy for Uncle Charlie to be beloved by my nieces and nephews because I gave them access to it. Oh crap! What just happened? Okay, sorry, I had some hardware issues there, but we're all back up. All right.
Okay. Cool.
But the back catalog gets an A+ for me because it's fucking Disney. It has everything from like the 60s movies like Thomasina and In Search of the Castaways that I grew up with watching, like the Haley Mills specials, and all the cartoons and the Pixar and the Marvel and all that shit. But for the most part, the original programming doesn't really do anything for me. So that's why I rated that so low. Like and I know that a lot of people love like WandaVision and Loki and stuff like that, but like Mandalorian is why I was invested in this app, and I love that. I look forward to all the Star Wars content. But the platform itself is just kind of meh. It's really clunky. I really should have given it I don't know, since I care a lot about the aesthetics of these platforms, and I find it it's molasses like at times when I'm trying to move around, and shift around in the menus. Maybe my experience isn't universal. Like, you have a higher opinion of it as a platform.
Yeah, so as far as platform, I gave it an A because the platform itself is very like utilitarian, like it's not very flashy. I would agree about like the kind of responsiveness where you'll press a button on your remote and then the actual thing will move like 3 seconds later. Okay. But the reason why I gave it such a high ranking is because almost everything on there is in 4K and Dolby Atmos, and it's completely free. They don't charge you for that. And I'm really big on like pushing home theater. Like, I really, really, even if it's gimmicky, I'll fucking eat up anything as far as like new home theater technology goes. And then kind of in conjunction with that, they just introduced this thing called IMAX Enhanced on the Marvel movies.
Okay. And what exactly is that?
So that is, it's only on, I think, 13 out of the 26 Marvel movies, and it's the most recent ones, the ones that were actually filmed in IMAX. And what that is they actually change the aspect ratio to the IMAX aspect ratio on your 4K TV.
Okay.
So the black bars disappear and it takes up the whole screen, and you're actually seeing like the whole frame. Whereas, with widescreen, you're the top of the picture is being cut off and the bottom of the picture is being cut off. And so it's kind of cool, I think, because, if you can, as much as you can, if you can replicate the theatrical experience at home, I'm all for it. I'm like, I will always be for that. But then, it's cheap, like you said. And then I guess the big downside for me on the app front is the Premier Access movies. I think that's really fucking lame that they charge like $20 for the movies that people actually want to watch, like Black Widow and like what else do they do it for? They did it with a Pixar movie.
Yeah, Raya and the Last Dragon.
Raya and the Last Dragon.
My ex-girlfriend's daughter Ruth visited over the summer. Or I forget when she was last year, actually, but she really fucking wanted to watch Raya, and I was just like, "Honey, I'm not gonna spend that fucking money for you to see this thing for like one night, because you're gonna want to see it every night after you see it once, And so I had to beg off on that one.
Yeah, and then just to double back really quick on the other two, the original programming, I gave it a C+ because. It skews younger, and there's a lot of stuff I'm not interested in. This year, the only things I've really been interested in are WandaVision, and Luca and Star Wars Visions.
Luca was really fucking good. I liked that.
Yeah, Luca was good. And have you seen any of the Star Wars Visions shorts?
No.
The anime shorts?
I guess I missed that completely.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. They basically they shopped the Star Wars IP out to a bunch of anime houses in Japan, and they said, make whatever you want. And all these different like anime houses made shorts that are all between like 7 and like 20 minutes long. And they're all in the Star Wars universe. And
so it's kind of like what Genndy Tartakovsky did with the original Clone Wars animations that he did, because they were just piecemeal, tiny little things.
Yeah.
Okay, hell yeah, man, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. So, and then back catalog, I also gave a pretty high mark of A- because I find that their older stuff is a lot more interesting than their newer stuff, and it's more artful. It's a lot of the stuff is like less childish. Like it doesn't treat kids as much of dumbasses as like the newer stuff does. So
exactly, and that's the stuff that I really gravitate to, because growing up, there's just some background on me. I grew up in a home without cable, without even like a bunny ear antenna. My parents guarded me so much from what was coming out in the 90s. So, but what we did have were these mail order, Disney collections, like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea with Kurt Russell, and like In Search of the Castaways and Thomasina and that kind of thing. And like in that. Yeah, and even like Swiss Family Robinson, like all of that stuff is on there, and the Kurt Russell Disney movies are even on there. I believe I saw one. I forget the title of it exactly, but yeah, they had a different manner to them, and it holds up a lot better than a lot of the recent shit. But of course, like when Ruth is here, she'll just want to watch zombies. Oh my god! So I've seen the best and the worst that the app has to offer in that regard, and I'd much prefer to go back to the '60s and where they had like real like artists working on children's entertainment, and it wasn't just junk food.
Yeah.
But an even newer kid on the block, even especially new to me, because unfortunately with a couple of these, I am not a customer. Like I'm not a customer of Apple Plus. So you're going to have a lot more to say about it than I am. But what I have seen from Apple Plus, primarily just found the Foundation series, they get a good B for me, because I look forward to more like that. But Yeah. Like, what can you tell me about Apple TV Plus, and should I subscribe?
Yeah, I think so. This is kind of my underdog. This is like really unexpected for me. I was not looking forward to this, when they announced this. And I started out as like a free trial customer, and I think they don't have a lot of stuff, but what they do have is like a lot of it's worth watching. And this year, like, so for me, their highlights have been Calls. I don't know if you've heard about that.
No.
Yeah, this show is fucking crazy. It's Fede Alvarez, the guy who did the new Evil Dead, and then the first Don't Breathe. And this show it's entirely audio, and the only picture that's up on screen is like a Winamp visualizer, and it's just you're listening to like they're almost like audio plays, but it's about basically it's crazy. It's so crazy, and it's so weird that it's on here, but yeah, it's basically about an alien invasion, and they're kind of the episodes are they follow different people while this is happening, and yeah, it's literally just audio with these visuals, these little visualizers, and this show is awesome, and nobody's talking about it like at all.
Well, you're talking about it, Matt Miller.
It's really good though, but yeah, I would definitely recommend it. And then also, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it just seems like it's definitely a COVID show though, because you can just get people in a voice call, and just have them run their lines, and then just have your visual effects artists and the imagination of the audience do all the heavy lifting for you. It's kind of brilliant. I am very interested in this now.
Yeah, it's good. And then kind of keeping in with that, another show nobody's talking about that was really great was the Mosquito Coast, which is actually a adaptation of an old book, but I won't go into that one too much. And then I'll just quick mention Foundation and For All Mankind are also on there. And like I said, these are kind of the bulk of their shows. I mean, I know they also have Ted Lasso, but I don't watch that.
And The Morning Show. The
Morning Show.
Those are the mom shows.
Yeah, exactly. Those are like the shows that the people who get the free trials with their new iPhones watch. But there is a lot of really great stuff on there. And back catalog, I gave them an F because they don't have one. They literally don't have one.
Yeah, and so unless it's just shilling other people's stuff, they don't. Yeah, they have nothing of their own to show yet. But but they do let you stream stuff the same way Netflix would. Correct?
You mean like rent stuff?
Well, like how like Netflix just says, oh, like here's here's Jaws. We have the rights to Jaws right now. Stream Jaws here. Do they do that?
No, they don't. They only have their original shows.
Okay. And I had a misconception about that then.
Yeah, they don't have any old stuff. They have their shows because I think Apple TV Plus started in like 2019, I want to say, or 2018, and that's all the content they have is stuff from that year back. So,
really thin.
So yeah, it is pretty thin. They really don't have a lot, but to kind of go more into that, the platform I gave an A-, and that was kind of the thing working against them is they don't have a whole lot of stuff. But the thing is that it's cheap. It's you can find free trials literally everywhere, so that's what I would recommend people do. But even after your free trial's done with, it's $4.99 a month.
That's all. Wow.
Yeah, that's it. And all of their programming, every single thing on there is 4K Dolby Atmos, kind of like Disney Plus. And then the app is very clean. But the biggest drawback for me is they mix in their rental content with their original content.
Oh.
So it's kind of like Amazon in that way where you don't really know if something is you have to pay for it, or if it's like one of their original shows until you click on the show, and then it says like, $4.99, or it says, watch with Apple TV Plus. So,
and that is always, a very deflating moment when you're like, oh shit, I can watch this. And that happens on Amazon Prime all the time.
Yeah,
like where Angie will be like, oh, we can, like, let's watch Rosemary's Baby, it's on Amazon Prime. And I'm like, yeah, if we spend $15 to rent it, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather acquire it by other means. But so they're a dark horse, and it's funny to say that Apple is a dark horse at anything, but here we are. But Paramount Plus, they made a lot of hay this year, but a lot of it kind of seemed a little rotten, and they have not given me any reason to become a customer. So I have never been a customer. Yeah. What has it been like being a customer of Paramount Plus?
Well, luckily, this is another free trial service for me. So this app is absolute trash, and it's mostly Star Trek, SpongeBob, and reality TV. And the only reason I have it is I think I signed up for a free trial for A Quiet Place Part 2 because that was one of the day and date drops. And so I watched that, and then I think I have like 2 more months on there for that. And it's their back catalog. Their original programming is mostly non-existent. It's just a bunch of like South Park specials and like SpongeBob specials and Star Trek shows that are really bad. And the back catalog is like Paramount movies, which sounds good on like the surface, but it's a very like picked out selection of Paramount movies. So I think there's literally only like 200 movies, and it's like they don't even bother putting up most of their catalog, most of Paramount's catalog for some reason. And other than that, it's their back catalog consists of Nickelodeon and CBS, which is trash. Yeah. so like, and then
so Paramount Plus is separate from like CBS All Access. They give you different things.
No, they merged it now.
Okay, that's
They're merged.
My question. So you could find what's that show that one about the rocket scientist who's an occultist? Is that still on there?
Ooh, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I'm not familiar with
well, you continue. I need to. It's a digression on my part because I've been wanting to watch that show because like he's a character that's part of like the L. Ron Hubbard story. He was one of the founders of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I'm forgetting his name.
Yeah, go ahead. Go look for that. And then while you're doing that, the app I gave a C. The platform I gave a C because it's kind of expensive for how garbage it is. It's $5 with commercials, $10 without, and they really load up on the commercials if you have the commercial plan. And then they do have some 4K options, but it's literally limited to like a couple of nature documentaries and then a couple like newer films, like the most recent Star Trek films, and like A Quiet Place Part 2 was in 4K, but other than that, there's nothing in 4K. So
and they did have the day and date with like Halloween Kills on there.
But no, that was Peacock.
That was Peacock?
Yeah, that was Peacock.
What the fuck? God, sorry, I'm just conflating all these things together. The show I was thinking it was Strange Angel, which is a biographical drama about Jack Parsons.
Okay.
Which seemed like a utterly bizarre fucking place for a show with the subject matter that it had. Yeah. And it was canceled after 2 seasons in 2019.
Okay.
But it's all about this guy who builds rockets by day in the 30s and then owns a mansion with like his commune of occultists where they do sex magic rituals. And like L. Ron, like I don't know if it happens in the show, but in real life, L. Ron Hubbard showed up at one point and like stole his girlfriend and a yacht from him. But that's just American history at this point. But it was a show that caught my eye, and I just could not believe that They do have L. Ron Hubbard in the show. Fuck yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look into that, because maybe it might actually make this worthwhile. But
maybe.
Yeah, just to put a cap on it, like this is the worst one by far, and I would not recommend it like under any circumstances, unless you want to do a free trial to watch like a couple newer movies. But that's
about it. Doesn't have much to offer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
This next one though, is it has a storied history outside of streaming. And it kind of felt like it had to enter into the fray and really, stake a claim, in the metaverse landscape. But HBO Max became a thing, and I've been a customer from the moment it, manifested. And for the most part, I'm quite happy with it. Their original programming continues to, be pretty solid. I gave them an A- strictly just because of Santa Incorporated. I dinged them for that. Because what are they doing? But overall, it's pretty, pretty fucking awesome. Their back catalog is peerless, and a lot of their original stuff I have been very fucking happy with. I did initially try and you create a distinction between what an HBO Max original was versus an HBO original, but functionally, is there even a difference?
Yeah, I mean, not really anymore. Yeah. I mean, I guess the only thing I've noticed is, you get both of them, but the only thing I've noticed is, HBO Max stuff just tends to be a little like lower budget, basically. It's for like their it's their streaming shows, versus the HBO stuff is like the prestige TV stuff.
Yeah, the HBO Max, with the exception of Raised by Wolves, they aren't getting Game of Thrones budgets.
Yeah,
it's a lot of stuff like I May Destroy You, which was from last year, granted, but I really fucking liked that show. It's a and that one, I guess I won't get in too deep into it, but like that show really caught my eye and held my attention all the way through it. And a lot of this, but then like they don't dip their toes into the trash TV quite as much as everybody else. They still kind of feel like, hey, we're better than this, but we have to keep bringing Carrie Bradshaw out. But we won't do a competition reality show like was it The Wall? Was not like what was the one that Netflix did, like where it's just like a bunch of people sitting in their living rooms in front of webcams?
Oh God, I don't know. Are you thinking of like The Floor is Lava?
No, it's something. Okay. Either way, I didn't watch it because I didn't care about it. But yeah, this is where you can get The Sopranos. This is where you can watch the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones and act like nothing came after it. And it gets you everything that came before, and they still have the standards that HBO has for the most part. It is just kind of a budget thing, But yeah, I guess. Oh, let me pull it back up again here. My critique that I have for this platform is that invariably, when I press play on something, it will look like 480p for the first like 30 seconds. And then it'll crank up and like figure out, oh wait a minute, this isn't 2007 on YouTube. I can do better than this.
Yeah.
It makes the Snyder Cut a lot less impressive when there's all that artifacting at the beginning of it.
Yeah. So as far as my grades go, I'm with you in that their original stuff is really great. And I think, this year especially, Mayor of Easttown, Made for Love, The White Lotus. I don't know. Have you ever watched Warrior? That's technically an Epix show, but they put it on HBO Max.
What was the title?
Warrior. It's like a martial arts show.
Warrior. The one about it's a Bruce Lee thing, right?
Yeah.
No, I guess I didn't realize that was on there.
Yeah, it's on there. It's very good, but Yeah, so I mean, I think their original stuff's good, and the only reason I gave them an A as opposed to an A plus is because I think that they've their lineup has gotten a lot more like Gen Z this year,
Oh way,
where
yeah, like the sex lives of college girls.
yeah,
It's just makes me want to vomit. It's like
yeah.
if we were doing that show with men, people would hate it.
Oh, for
You
sure.
know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, like that, and they have like Gossip Girl, like the reboot of
Yeah,
Gossip Girl, and
yeah.
then this show called like Generation Plus or something that's very like Gen
Yeah,
Z.
that one that like Luca Guandito made, where it's like about those American kids on a military base in Italy,
Yeah,
be getting
yeah.
all gender queer about life.
Mhm.
Yeah, like yeah, a lot of that stuff
Yeah.
is not for me. Which is that shit Zendaya show. What's it called?
Oh, Euphoria.
Euphoria. Like they're
Yeah.
really trying to just replicate Euphoria over and over and over again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So that's why I dinged them there. But and then yeah, back catalog, same thing as you. It's amazing. They've got Warner Brothers movies plus old HBO shows plus all these like really cool hubs that I've noticed on there, like Turner Classic Movies Hub,
Yeah.
Studio Ghibli, Adult Swim, like yeah, and you can actually go to like these different sections of the app where they have all this stuff like
Yeah.
in their own areas
I do
and
like how
stuff.
they silo it all because that's something that most of these other platforms don't do. Like if you
Yeah.
want to stick to a specific kind of thing, you can get it there.
Hmm.
And the what I guess God, like, that just reminds me. I'm sorry that I should have brought this up when we were talking about Netflix, but the biggest coup that they pulled was convincing. I'm sorry to digress like this, but getting the latest season of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to be day and date on Netflix versus waiting to have it be localized. That was a big coup for
Okay.
them because that show is crazy fucking popular. But
Okay.
the HBO doesn't really play in that, to the same extent. They don't greenlight original anime for the most part.
Yeah.
But they do have a home for it,
Hmm.
which is nice. I appreciate
Yeah.
that because they give you a little bit of everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they have very varied and it's mostly, it's a lot of it's good stuff. So, and then the app I gave a B minus because I think it's fine. The it's expensive. They're $15 a month.
Hmm.
And their only 4K content are their like 2021 movies and then the Matrix trilogy for some
For some
reason.
reason, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess because they're just trying to get people to be excited for the new one.
yeah, pretty much.
But
So
because but I do like that when they put the Lord of the Rings on there, they included the extended cuts.
yeah.
I do like that. I do like that.
Yeah, they do.
But they aren't in 4K though.
They're not in 4K, no.
Even though
And
they have Blu-ray versions of it and everything like that. They still don't have a 4K version of those things.
yeah, only on 4K Blu-ray. You have to get a
Oh my,
4K Blu-ray.
that's
So
come on.
yeah,
But that I think that is in keeping to the technological problems that they're having. Like they don't have the underpinnings, like they don't have the servers. That
yeah,
might be a part of it because much like the Disney Plus app, it's clunky as fuck.
mhm.
And they also had this weird like antagonistic relationship towards LG TVs. So for like a year, I couldn't watch HBO on the 4K TV that we have.
Okay.
I didn't get to see Snyder Cut in 4K, until like 8 months later,
Yeah,
basically.
did you end up getting like a Roku or something? Is that what, or do you have it on your TV now?
I have it on my TV now.
Oh, you do?
That's
Okay.
yeah. So like that's like eventually they just kind of were like, okay, now we're here. But for a
Okay.
long time, they just wasn't available. HBO Max
Sure.
was not available on LG TVs for no good reason, as far as I could tell. But
Okay.
I guess they just weren't paying the licensing fees, or there was some programming issue. But
Mhm.
that annoyed the fuck out of me because I was so excited to watch the Snyder Cut that I couldn't even see it on that glorious 75-inch that my
Mhm.
my roommate basically stole from Target. they put the wrong price label in front of it, and he pulled the hey, this is how much you have to sell it to me for. So I guess that's the karma of that purchase. But HBO Max, it gets probably the highest grade from us. It deserves it, but it also has a lot of work to do. Even like it has an A- today. That original programming score could really tank if they continue to try and out Netflix on appealing to the zaniest generation of them all.
Well, okay. Just to, I guess that was our last one, right?
It was, yeah. I do have, like you have we have a best of arrest slide that I can throw up though, if you want to continue. Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say was, before we get to that, if you had to, just to kind of put a cap on these 7, if you had to put together a list of 3 that you could only have 3 of these, what 3 would you say?
HBO, Amazon, and I'd have to, I would stick by Netflix. I'd give them a chance to get better. And they still, I want to see what happens in Stranger Things season 4. I want to know, I want them to get it the fuck over with, and even though I do enjoy that show, despite my tone, but it's where I can watch all my JoJo, because that's the anime that I care about. So I'll take those 3. I'll take those 3 and I'll lose the rest.
Sure. I would probably do HBO, Netflix, and Prime. As much as I like Apple TV Plus, it's just not there quite yet. So that's kind of the 3 that I would do. But I would piss on Hulu. If it was dying on the street, it has nothing for me, and I regret the hundreds of dollars I've spent on that subscription over the years. Sure. It's whatever. But some boutique ones that we can kind of recommend, I guess. Why don't you give me the rundown on yours first? Yeah, so mine are Shudder is my big one. I really love Shudder. I've been a subscriber for I think about 2 years now, and they have been really aggressive about getting the horror movies that people actually want to see and not just shit on there. These are the actual, they'll go out to the Philippines and Indonesia to find the crazy shit, and they'll get it. And they're just very, very good about that type of stuff. They'll go to Argentina and pick up Terrified. I don't know if you've ever heard of that movie. I have. Yeah. That movie was amazing. And really recommend them. And then the other ones, Mubi, which is kind of a weird one.
What the fuck is Mubi? Yeah.
So Mubi it's very similar to the Criterion channel, but what they do is they upload one movie every day. And the idea behind it is that you just kind of watch whatever they upload that day. And they do keep a back catalog though. So it's not like they upload a movie and then take it down 24 hours later. They keep it up for a while, but and it's always really good stuff. The type of movies they put on there are very similar to movies that would go on the Criterion channel. So it's a lot of indie stuff. It's a lot of prestige stuff, small dramas. And then the last one I would recommend is Canopy, which is literally free if you have a library card. Yeah. I think I mentioned that before, and that's very similar, where it's a lot of indie stuff. It's a lot of I think they have 8th Grade on there. Mm-hmm. They have the Florida Project on there, and it's a lot of smaller movies, but most of them are good. They do curate it. It's not just the libraries whatever, this stuff. They're actually curating this stuff because they want it to be semi educational, I guess. They don't want to just throw garbage up there because it's a library. So.
Yeah, exactly. But it's what's amazing about that, just because the price has come up a lot, and when we talk about these things, and it's amazing how many people don't have library cards and don't realize the value that your tax dollars can give you if you get one. And this is one example of it. So, because my aunt used to like rent movies from the library in much the same way, or like get free audiobooks, books on tape or CD when that was a thing. Yeah. And so this is just an extension of that notion, and I'm all for it. Even e-readers used to have if you had a library card, you could get free ebooks. So that's something to consider. I really, I got a lot out of the Criterion Channel. I just didn't hold on to it, but it served me well during 2020 during quarantine. I was able to watch a lot of really good stuff on there. Showtime, the Yellow Jackets is awesome and everything, but they really don't have a lot to offer besides that. The Affair was awesome trash TV, and that's kind of like their back catalog is pretty good. Weeds and Dexter are fun as like nostalgia points for me. Yeah. And I really recommend ESPN Plus if you like sports documentaries. The 30 for 30 series is the only gig in town when it comes to sports documentaries. They have so much good stuff. And there's lots of like cool stories that most people don't know. And that was the original inspiration behind that whole project. It was the first 30 years of ESPN's existence. We're going to celebrate it. But what are the things that most people don't know about, or, only like super fans of the sport would care about? The ones that I'd recommend on there is the Two Escobars, which explores the relationship between Pablo Escobar and a soccer player who shared his last name, who was on the national team, and just about soccer and, the narcos and the cocaine dealers of Colombia. Really, really cool documentary. And of course, Winning Time is another one that I love. It just it did kind of outgrow itself, as a whole project, because eventually 30 for 30, they did O.J. Simpson and they won an Oscar for it. And then they produced The Last Dance, which is, the Michael Jordan documentary. But if you like sports, definitely consider packaging it in with Hulu and Disney Plus, I guess, just to maximize the most out of your dollar. Of course, it also gives you access to live sports, which is something that some people care about. Being able to, watch UFC matches on there was pretty cool, during 2020. But like the Criterion Channel, I just had to cut it because it was just getting too expensive to hang on to it all. Which leads me to my tongue-in-cheek, inclusion of the Pirate Bay logo, because ultimately when it gets down to it, if I really want to see something, I will find it by any means necessary. But I have been trying to be a better, more responsible consumer. I subscribe to AMC Plus, and it gives me a subscription to Shudder, because Shudder is an AMC property, and I definitely look forward to diving more into what they have. But we also wanted to, consider some features that either certain platforms have and others don't, that we wish they would adopt. What were your thoughts on that? Like, where was your noodling taking you?
Yeah, so I guess the big thing is, 4K needs to become standard, like with all these services. Like, there's no reason going into 2022, there's no reason why a service shouldn't be in 4K. And then the other thing, kind of a weird left field one, is, are you familiar with, on Amazon Prime, the X-ray feature?
I love the X-ray feature. It's so useful because they're just integrating the IMDb like random facts stuff directly into the movie. And no, I find it very useful to be like, hey, wait a minute, who is that actor? Because it gives you everybody who's on screen, and you can rabbit hole on them for a second. So if you're okay with, breaking up your film going experience a little bit, no, I like X-ray quite a bit. I get a lot out of that.
I would like to see that in more places because, yeah, I get a lot of it with, like you were saying, the actors thing. And then also it does songs too. Like if you hear a song that you like in a movie, but you don't know what it is, you can turn that on and it'll tell you right there. So
hey, because they want you to hop onto Amazon Music, you know, and
Yeah,
buy it on there. But what was I going to say? I had a thought and I lost it. But is one thing that I wish that like they would, even Netflix, they have it, but it's a fake random button. I want a real random button on these streaming platforms. I want to be able to say I want to watch something I haven't seen. I want to have it be in this kind of a genre. I want to have it at this length. And then just hit a button, and then it'll just run its algorithm and then play something for me.
Yeah, like filters.
Exactly. That's all we're talking about here. But I actually want it to be genuine, not just play a random thing that Netflix has predetermined that they want to push on me. I wish they had a more proper random button, a roulette wheel, so you could, roll the dice a little bit and, have something unexpected, come your way versus having to dig through it. Because that's my streaming experience, having everything available to me, is a blessing and a curse at the same time. Because I'm able to sit there and click and be like, oh yeah, that's a good movie. Like maybe we should watch that. Maybe, but I'll be clicking for a half an hour before I actually settle on something. So for me personally, it would help me out a great deal if they could just decide for me, which is funny considering what streaming is supposed to be about, which is whatever you want, whenever you want it.
Yeah. So I think that about wraps that up, right?
I remembered what I was going to say.
Oh yeah.
Like how available are commentary tracks for on streaming? Like, is there anybody that makes those things an option for your audio track?
No, not that I know of.
That's what I'm missing.
Yeah.
That would
be cool.
I want to be able to pull up the social network and be able to listen to any of the 24 commentary tracks that you can get on the DVD or Blu-ray of that thing. Because that would be cool. There were some movies that I think you could do that with for a short time a couple years ago. I forget which platform gave you that option, but maybe I just invented it in my own head, or I read it on a forum somewhere. But I wish that they would do that. It'd be neat because I miss that from the DVD experience.
Yeah, for sure.
I miss hearing all the bullshit that David Fincher has to say about the movies he makes. But that does kind of wrap it up. The big winner right now is HBO, but they got to work hard to stay where they are, and everybody else has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, so you want to move into our releasing next week. Let's just run through these really quick. We're getting a little long, I think, here.
Yeah,
let's just
run through it.
Run through them. Nightmare Alley, new Guillermo del Toro, Spider-Man No Way Home. Those are both going to be in theaters. Just so people are aware, we're going to be doing Spider-Man No Way Home next week for our big review.
We'll have a special guest reviewing it with us too. Eric Bradshaw will be joining us.
And then we got Witcher Season 2, Station 11 on HBO. That's a new post-apocalyptic show.
Looks interesting.
From the writer of Maniac, that one. We got Swan Song on Apple TV Plus. First time director on that one, sci-fi movie. And then AMC Plus has got a new show called Firebite.
Australian Vampire Hunters. It looks kind of fun, actually.
So look forward to those because I'm going to be watching a lot of those actually, probably. So
it's a busy week. It kind of was hard to. I kind of tossed up about what I'm probably going to go to Nightmare Alley regardless, but the Witcher 2, super excited for. And the rest of those three are just neat little surprises for me. I wasn't aware of either of those last three until I saw them on the list.
Okay. Yeah. So it's going to be good next week. And then our parting question.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to?
Go
into that?
Take the lead with that one.
Okay, so for next week's parting question, we're going to be talking about people bringing blankets and pillows into movie theaters. And I mean, this is basically, I have a lot to say about this, but I'm going to save it for next week. But I mean, I'll just structure this question the most basic way possible. What do you think of people bringing blankets from home into movie theaters? Because, you know, they're cold or they just want to be more comfortable. And I've been seeing this a lot lately. Like, this is becoming more and more common. Like,
oh my God.
So
that's interesting. I'll have to ponder that a little bit.
Yeah. So look forward to that.
Definitely.
It's becoming more common, and I have a lot to say about it next week.
I look forward to it. I just want to say that, like, this is our 8th episode. We've been at this for 2 months now. It's been a blast, and thank you, Matt, for joining me every Sunday to do this. It's always a joy to put it together, and I hope everybody who watched this enjoyed it, and have a good night.
Yeah, see ya.
See ya.